most of our webinars with Metaverse Learning, and it will be available on YouTube afterwards, should you wish to share that with your colleagues or rewatch. As always, we do encourage you to make the most of today's session, turn off any other distractions and give us all your concentration. And if you do have any problems and you do lose connection, we just highly recommend that you do the classic, turn it on and off again, restart your browser or the Teams app and rejoin the session. But if something isn't quite working and you do have access to the chat, do feel free to pop a note in the chat pod and I will try and help you out. But without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Jason. Jason, over to you.
Becky, thank you very much. And as you have referenced, we have done many of these webinars, and it's a real pleasure to be welcoming you all today to this crucial discussion around how to make the most of our technology to the betterment of all of our learners. And we've got an incredible panel of experts who will share their expertise with us, and I will introduce them shortly. But just in terms of the thinking behind today, this is a question which keeps coming up over and over. Metaverse Learning, as you know, is not just a supplier of immersive technologies, but is a convener. And we love to convene people who are wanting to understand better how to engage, integrate technologies. And so this is, again, with Jisc, another opportunity to share the expertise and the people who are really part of the community of getting technology to work better for us. And what we keep hearing over and over is the fact that there's big vision, there's big ambition with technology, but the implementation of it is a challenge. So what can we do about those challenges, and how do we, in practical terms, address them? And so I'm now going to ask if Chris, if you don't mind sharing your screen. We've got a very exciting agenda, and I'm going to just, we move to the next slide, Chris, and I'm just going to hand over to our speakers. And if we can just come off screen, I'm just going to ask each of our speakers to introduce themselves. As you will see, they are absolutely fab. So Vio, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Yes, hello, my name is Vio Lukuta. I work as an e-learning coordinator at New City College. My career here has just turned 18. I've been here so long. I started in a small campus called Redbridge, and now we are the biggest college in London under the umbrella of New City College.
Thank you, Vio. Wonderful. And David?
Hi, my name is David Pouch. I'm the product manager at Pearson for Digital Business Support Services. I've worked in FE and education for, well, a couple of decades now, and have moved into supporting the products. And when I say products, I mean qualifications like T-levels, apprenticeships, and BTECs.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, David. We look forward to hearing from you shortly. And Sarah?
Hi everyone, my name's Sarah Khan. I'm the Customer Success and Training Manager at Metaverse Learning. However, my background is further education, so I have worked for over 15 years within the FE sector, as not only just in the UK, but also abroad in the Middle East. And my background is digital, so I'm really looking forward to the session today.
Wonderful. So as you can see, we've got three incredible experts. There's nothing they have not experienced or cannot answer. So we would encourage you to please put thoughts, reflections, questions in the chat, and there will be at the end an opportunity for Q&A. So we just move to the next slide, Chris. So we will move on to the next slide. But just to introduce myself, I'm Jason Holt, and I am as I said, the co-founder, but my background is FE as well, and particularly in apprenticeships, and the whole rationale of Metaverse Learning, which I've co-founded with Majid Al-Qadir, who's the VR world expert, may I say, is that we need to find better ways to engage and excite and test and really immerse learners in a way that they cannot really do in any other fashion than through simulation. And so that is our remit. I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, to Vio.
Hello, everyone. Hello again. I am so excited to be here. So excited that this morning I ended up 4 stops over my stop. So I had to come back on the tube. When I received this invitation, I did feel a little bit apprehensive. But then I thought, you know, supportive framework, technology, integration. This has been my journey at New City College all these years. This journey has taken me to other places. Slide, please. I have been regularly going to conferences such as NATECLA from Glasgow to Birmingham and Nottingham, where I present interactive workshops for ESOL and English teachers. I've been also involved with the Society for Education and Training. I was on their AI discussion panel with ELSIF, Imperial College, FEDEC, so many other places in London as well, who invited me to deliver bespoke training on different type of technology lately. Not to mention also the online presence I have delivered. I was lucky to be part of an amazing community of colleges that delivered Techtober in October, and some other online stuff. So let's have a look at what sort of strategies we employ at New City College. I'm sure you have all tried and tested all that list that I've got on the slide. I'm going to focus on the overcome barriers to adoption. We wonder, why would anyone put any barriers, and why would anyone refuse new technology? My favorite answer has been from the keynote speaker at DigiFest this year, Paul Iske. He is CFO, Chief Failure Officer at the Institute of Brilliant Failures. Watch his keynote speak because he was amazing. He said, well, the adoption and the barriers to adoption can be identified as the empty seat at the table. What does that mean? That at the tech decision round table, there is always an empty seat. And that's exactly who the technology is supposed to be for. Hence, he said, we should try and get these people involved in this decision making. And I thought and reflected that throughout my career, is one of the things I try to do in my practice to break this barrier. And I'll show you a couple of tips that I've used. The first one is getting personal. So slide, please. I have used a couple of hooks, so activities that bring the audience, getting to know them, the people that have been volunteered for our sessions, not they didn't volunteer themselves. And one of them is this. I'd ask my audience to think of an adjective that starts with the same letter as their name. So I would be vibrant, Vio, vivacious, Vio. And if I deliver the training during the day, I might even tell them that I am from the Transylvanian mountains and I am vampiric Via. So if I may ask our lovely audience to put in the chat, how are they doing in terms of an adjective and their name? Let's see what sort of people we end up with today. So if you do, please put them in the chat. That would be amazing. I have had in my training an elegant Emma, a jolly James, a cheerful Christina, a particular Paul, lazy Leo, and so on. So if there is anything already in the chat, please do let me know. We have jumpy Jason, I can see.
Yeah, we have fantastic Fatima.
Fabulous. Please do let them come in. Any other amazing Amina, I can see them coming. Yeah, fabulous. Smart Sarah.
Yeah,
yes,
I can definitely I can concur with that.
Fabulous, fabulous. So this is one technique that I try to bring people into to the technology adoption table. If not a seat, maybe a stool. Let's have a look on the next slide. What else I use? Another activity I've used is, how are you feeling about today? So I ask people to measure their feelings in terms of animals or Christmas movies or food or whatever it is. And I hope nobody is feeling feeling a 2 today, but maybe more of a 6 or an 8. You can also put in the chat how you're feeling if you want. And I also use the biography map where you use numbers and the first letter of the word. So yes, once I claimed that I had 7 jobs. Next, please. Oh, we have a Malvol. Oh, Matthew. Another inspirational thing that resonated with me from the same Paul Iske's keynote was the definition of creativity. He said the creativity is obviously the foundation of healthy and effective innovation, and that will make the organization develop and progress. But I never actually thought, how do you measure this creativity? And he says that it's a formula. Did you know this? I didn't, but it's amazing. He says that it's the number of times you laugh times the number of your questions you ask. That is how you calculate creativity index. And if you look at the screen, you're going to see in the graph that we seem to be the most creative between the age of 0 and 5, 98%, which means that we laugh 113 times a day and ask questions 65 times. Look at what happens when we go to school. It goes down to about 32%. And I absolutely adore the description of what happens when you turn 44. We become terminally serious. Ta-da! And then I thought, I think I've been battling this terminal seriousness throughout my practice. I always try to, slide please, bring humor and questions. So for example, I was training the other day on Padlet. I was asking people to do a little activity before we went into the technicalities of Padlet. And I found this brilliant clip from Michael McIntyre about Silent Letter Celebration Day. And what they had to do is watch this little video and then type in any word they heard with silent letters. We ended up with hour, Sunday a witch, half, knickers, Wednesday, autumn, talking, climbing, as he was laughing why they exist. Yes, I can see the comments. Another activity I've used is I've asked teachers or the people involved in my training to sell certain things. So I started with silly inventions. I still remember at the end of one of my sessions, someone who is a published author of materials and books and said, I have never had this surreal experience where another peer of mine came and tried to convince me to buy these grass flip-flops. It looked like their life was depending on this sale. And I just felt really happy about that. And as I mentioned, humor and then questions, as Paul Iske said. Questions, either always I have a quiz or I have them think about questions so that I can start that creativity spinning. Please, can I have the next slide? So in terms of how we implement sustainable professional development, we have tried, I'm sure like you guys, so many different things. We have tried CPD days, we have tried one-to-ones, we have tried bespoke sessions. I think one of the very useful one that I've tested is going into staff meetings, arranging it with the SEM, with the manager, and say, right, this is what we have to offer. What do you think? Can we come into your meeting? And again, the flagship for our organization is supported experiments. So we have the teaching and learning lab, and this has got amazing submissions by all the curriculum areas, and they put on a research question, which then they will follow through throughout the year. And we have a big showcase at the end of the year, the CPD showcase. Now I can mention, slide please, two, I think, very important supported experiments that we have led as the learning team. This one is the AI project. So we researched last year how AI impacts on our students and on our teachers, especially for teachers. We looked at their needs. I love this quote, Joanna from on Twitter, I think I found X. You know what the biggest problem with pushing all things AI? Wrong direction. I want AI to do my laundry and my dishes so I can do art and writing. And so we started with that and asked lots of the teachers who participated in our research, what would you like AI to do for you? A lot of them said, well, I like them to save me time. I like them to make me, improve my well-being. That will improve my well-being, the less lack of stress. So we delivered quite a few of these AI courses, and we are in process to try and deliver even more. I love this quote as well about what one of the teachers would do with the saved time. He wants to go home on time and spend it either at the pool or at the pub. And you should see the amazing activities people would do if they had that time, which we did conclude that it saved between 1 to 4 hours a day for them. We also gave them a achievement certificate and a badge, so that really helped. The second project, which we are now researching, slide please, is the VR and immersive rooms. So we have got 3 rooms at New City College, which were launched last year in October. And we have got hundreds now. I think we're going to have the most VR headsets in London. And so how have we been using them? We have been using them for cross-college campus talks. We had Jet2 holiday there that made me actually book a holiday. We had someone from University of Performing Arts, and we connected with the different campuses that have got those courses. I've just been in the immersive room, and I spoke to the manager there, and he said that he was doing something for the catering department, and we have nationwide coming next week as well. What an amazing opportunity. But we also use especially VR headsets for themed events. You can see at the top there is Green Week. I was with students there. They absolutely adore the experience to see what happens in some of the scenarios, either a beautiful planet or not that good if you don't look after it. Slide, please. And this is our VR, one of the VR room, one of the immersive rooms. We had Metaverse resources. We mainly have Metaverse resources and some from BLC and some freebies. And we might invest as well in body swaps. But here with Metaverse, we had for plumbing, electricals, we had young early years, health and social care. The students really love the experience. I'll show you in a minute a few of their quotes. Commis chef for catering was also very exciting for the students, and I absolutely love how you think that they already have used them, and they say, do you know how to use the controllers? And then they go, Miss, how do I go this? How do I do this? It's so exciting. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We have I love talking about Metaverse Learning, obviously, but we have a very tight timetable. So maybe 30 seconds and then close.
Yeah, that's fine. So
Thank
I will
you.
speak a little bit more about the building communities, I'm sure, during the discussion. So if we just go to the next slide. This was just how we measure the technology impact as part of the supported experiments. We have surveys, and we can also always give you some of this data. And yes, this is it really. This is me.
Amazing. Vio, there is so much there. I wish we could have carried on for at least another half an hour, at least more. But what I took from there is you are definitely vibrant, Vio, and you are absolutely visionary, Vio. So thank you very, very much. And I'm sure there'll be lots of questions following this. And I'm now delighted to hand over to David, who has admittedly said he is a dynamic David. And this theme is going to run, Vio. So, David, over to you.
Thank you. And as I come from a product background qualification, what I want to do here is try and take you through how technology can help you with your products. I've got a short presentation about this, but basically what I'm going to talk about is 2 modes. I'm going to talk about discover mode and defense mode. And what I'll talk about is how we can get past that. By balancing content technology, looking how we can use technology, particularly with formative assessment and why that's necessary, then the fact of going beyond the curriculum, and then I'll give a use case with regards to digital T-levels. Next slide, please. And next slide. So one of the problems is, and this will be a common thing, is that you'll hear lots of barriers to technology. You saw them on the previous slide, where you probably heard lots of people say things like, I don't have time for this, or I just, it's not reliable, I just need a textbook, or it's not how it's going to be assessed. Well, learners need to be continually challenged so that they can come into unfamiliar constructs. And some of the reasons for using technology is that it's about motivation, it's about formative assessment, it's about breaking it up, but it's also about preparing for the workplace. As teachers, our role isn't just delivering the qualifications for the specification in front of us. It's actually about preparing the learners for the next stage. But also, if we go back to the assessment, an assessment puts a learner in a very much defensive mode. If we continually allow our learners to discover new ways of doing things, to go into discover mode rather than defend mode, that means that when they're in unfamiliar context, they're less likely to freeze. And what we're seeing a lot, and the feedback we get a lot, is that learners are presenting very differently right now than they did previously. So creating safe spaces where they can discover is kind of vital for them to be successful, not only on the qualifications that they're on right now, but also in the future. We can go to the next slide, please. So it's about encouraging discover mode. Assessments are scary, continually putting technology there so that we're putting them in unfamiliar contexts, but also having safe spaces where they can actually prepare. You know, a deeper understanding of a subject can only be found through discovery and not rote learning. Teaching to a textbook, teaching to bullet points on a specification doesn't bring it together. And actually, we don't assess like that. The majority of our questions in exams and constructs that happen in internal assessments and elsewhere bring knowledge together. So that rote learning doesn't bring spec points, knowledge together in a way that actually we're going to assess it. So having experiences like Metaverse and like others that bring those spec points together, bring the knowledge together, is actually beneficial to any kind of assessment. Okay, next slide, please. Because specification content can be atomistic. You know, you've got to, if you're going to look at specifications, and you know, most teachers, that's where they start. Instead of looking at how can I use my existing resources, it's about how can I bring things together to make it fresh. Yeah. Look for opportunities for exploration of a topic like cyber and health and safety, those topics that can be a little bit dry. And I'll talk about that when we get to the T-level bit at the end. But also use it to plug holes. If staff have not got experience of something, haven't got the knowledge of something, can technology help? It's also a dual thing, because if it helps the students and they have that experience, it helps the staff because they can see how it works. And what we're seeing a lot of on our qualifications right now is project-based learning being much more used, bringing technology into this to explore projects, explore how they work, and then to be able to use to actually finish blocks of learning so that we know where we stand. Because as you'll see later on, we now need to know where those learners stand, where there isn't formative assessment happening. Next slide, please. So if we look at technology and formative assessment, have you ever heard this? I'm tired of marking. No, they just don't get it. Use technology to overcome that. Use technology to know how students are progressing, and use technology to know where you need to revisit later on if they struggled with the topic. Next slide, please, Christy. Because technology isn't just about being fancy or anything like that. It does provide an audit trail without the paperwork. It can do all of this for you. It can, you know, it reduces the assessment burden. It allows you to be creative in how you do things. You're not spending lots of time doing things and marking and all the rest of it. Your motivation for your cohorts is really key. Students come from a very different way than previously, and they don't have short attention spans. So if we've got technology that can keep things fresh and keep things going, and give them quicker feedback, because we have a generation of students right now who want instant feedback. They can't wait a week for you to mark things. Technology can help with that because it gives them the feedback, lets them know where they are, and it also keeps the motivation going, because they all came onto your course because they were interested in it. The fact is that it takes a year to get to some of the assessments, this can help. Move on to the next slide, please. So when it comes to how to use, and I'll give a bit more detail in a minute, I think you need to use technology regularly to bring sequences of learning together, either at the beginning for the introduction of new topics to encourage that discovery mode, which I'll go on to in a minute, or to kind of do peer learning, group tasks. Students are presenting right now with a deficit in soft skills, be that through confidence or other reasons. That's just the previous years we've been through. Technology, like the ones we're talking about today, creates a safe environment for them to explore those soft skills. And that will be necessary on many of the qualifications they're going to be sat. So use it in those ways, but never as a gimmick. And use it as the learning and way to be there. And ultimately, next slide, you just went as I was going. Ultimately, this quote, which we use a lot at Pearson, is really true. The jobs that have not been created for technology that have not been invented yet to solve problems that have not been anticipated. Learners need to be challenged to use new things, because in the workplace, there's always a new thing coming on. And if we haven't got learners who can see technology and use it effectively, we're not setting them up to be 21st century practitioners. Next slide, please. But the motivation thing is really important. I'm no longer interested in subject. Didn't think it was like this. It's not in a specification, so I can't teach from a teacher, or it's just a distraction. Technology can enable people to remain interested. It varies the way we're doing things. So I think that when you're looking at how to embed it, it's about those dry subjects. It's about keeping that interest going and making sure it's fresh and available. Because our students right now, when it comes to technology, they have an appetite for it. They have an appetite for something that pushes the boundaries. And I think that if it's used correctly, it can actually really enhance the student experience. Next slide, please. And curriculum, as I've said already, isn't a specification. Teaching should enhance those outcomes. And never forget that specifications, whatever the qualification, is written at a point in time. Technology moves on in every single sector. If you think about it, AI has become a massive thing over the last 2 to 3 years, but a lot of specifications, particularly the A-level ones, were before that. So we've got to move with the times and use technology as it goes forward. But also I'd say be as curious about your subjects as your students were. Otherwise, they won't be. Move on to the next slide, please. So digital T-levels, next slide, look a bit like this. For those that aren't familiar, there's a core exam, there's an employer set project, occupational specialism. They're all terminal assessments. They are large chunks of learning over the size of 3 A-levels. This is the future for what we call technical education. And the challenges with this are on the next slide, please. There are lots of terminal assessment. The challenging assessment as well that puts students into places they're not comfortable with, like presenting. Yeah. The assessments also bring together large bodies of knowledge and skills. So for those exams, they're at least 300 GLH worth of content. The core content can be dry because it can go across everything, and students typically are finding the first year quite dry. But they've also got a work placement alongside it. So those softer skills are a challenge for learners who are going to go into the workplace for those 315 hours that's necessary in order to pass the qualification. Next slide, please. So using technology to keep the formative assessment going, use projects. Make sure you bulk learning up together and have those projects, and use technology so that you know where every single learner is. There are no surprises at the end of the year. It should help evaluate where the learner is and how prepared they are for the assessment. So it should give an idea of what the assessment they are. Developing soft skills for the work placement, absolutely. Create a safe space where students can look and do things. A lot of the technology we look at has that safe space for interviews, for talks, for dealing with other people in a way that doesn't deal with other people. It's also about making sure that it's up to date with the workplace. The workplace that the students are going into for digital is the current workplace. They're expected to have leading edge knowledge and add value to the places they're going to work. And as a result, using technology is what's being done in the workplace. Why wouldn't you mimic the workplace? You kind of have to. And in a long curriculum delivery model, there tends to be higher dropout rates and lower retention. Both the same thing, but actually can happen for a couple of reasons on the T level. Keeping the students motivated as they go through is a key part of what's happening. And using technology for the digital T levels, we see that what happens is it keeps it fresh, it keeps learners coming back, and they feel valued because there has been time and an effort spent on making the curriculum fit for them. And ultimately, every student wants to feel that rather than get a PowerPoint deck like this one that's a little bit bland and very, very much at you. It should be much more interactive and much more about them, and put the student in the center of the curriculum.
Thank
And
you,
I
David.
believe that's me done.
Brilliant. I loved that, and I loved your kind of you putting the case across why technology brings a subject not just to life, but brings different parts of the curriculum together. And that point around instant gratification, instant feedback in this day and age, that's what learners want. That's what they expect in other parts of their life. And so making that accessible through technology and fundamentally keeping motivation. So I'm sure there'll be lots of points you'd like to cover in the Q&A, but thank you so much, David. That was excellent. And now I'm delighted to introduce our final speaker, Sarah Khan, who is going to talk from a metaverse learning perspective, and also, as she said earlier, perspective as somebody who's been in FE for quite a while. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you for having me on this webinar today. It's really nice to have met everybody. So I'm Sarah Khan, I'm the Customer Success and Training Manager, as I've mentioned, and I'm going to be talking about scaling and sustaining digital transformation in education. This session is a little bit interactive, so I am going to ask Becky to add a link to Miro board onto the chat. So if you go into the chat, there is a link there, and it's a mood board where I'm going to be asking you to kind of feedback and put in your ideas and your knowledge around digital transformation into the mood board as I go through the slides. So then at the end, when it comes to Q&A, we can then kind of come back to what you've entered in there. So please do just feel free to add in your information into there. Next slide, please. Just to start off with, I want you to all, this is a starter activity, so a little bit of interactive session here where I'm going to ask you, if you've all got your phones, to take out your phones and scan the QR code and to any of those images there. Now, augmented reality is 3D models of objects, so you can actually look at each of those objects in 3D format and analyze what each feature is of the object as well. So I want you to scan those QR codes and think about how would you use augmented reality within your curriculum, and how would you use that with your learners. And when you're in the mood board, the very first box there is a sticky note section where you can actually put your ideas down on how you would use augmented reality for your students. And as we go along the slides, just keep entering in that information. So that's your starter activity. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about strategic road mapping today for institutions in digital transformation, balancing innovation with practical implementation needs, building digital capabilities across diverse teaching staff, and technology governance and policy considerations. Next, please. So in terms of strategic road mapping for digital transformation, what this means is that we're thinking about how we're going to create a clear plan for education institutes like colleges, schools, industry, and using technology over time. And it's like basically what we do is it's like a roadmap to guide institutes through changes that will happen to improve and stay relevant to digital age. And again, in the mind map on Miro, there is another section which I would like you to fill out on how to vision technology to help you your students achieve. So if you could put in your ideas as well, but start with the vision. What do you want technology in terms of how do you want to help students achieve? It could be from better learning experiences, more efficient administration, breaking it down into phases as well. So like short-term and long-term goals, because obviously when you are thinking about technology within your organization, you do need to make sure that you've got everything planned out very well in a strategic way, and ensuring it's also flexible as well. So making sure that any new emerging technology is adaptable to your organization, it's flexible to your organization. So I want you to put your ideas down into the mood board in terms of what you feel we could do to achieve that process. Next slide, please. So balancing innovation and practical implementation, what does that mean? Well, while new technology is exciting, which it is, and we're using AI and VR and AR, all of these different acronyms that we're using, it's all very, very exciting, but it's important to make sure that we use it effectively in the real world and without overwhelming teachers and students. So as a trainer, when I go out to train staff and students, it does get overwhelming when they see a VR headset and they've got to put on the headsets and navigate their way through a virtual environment, and it does be a little bit daunting for some teachers. Students tend to capture that experience quite quickly and they enjoy it, but it can be overwhelming for some students as well. So it's kind of, we need to make sure that we use our strategies correctly with the students and teachers. And key points there to note are innovation should meet the needs of teachers, students, and it's not just about looking cool, but it's meant to be, to make them enjoy as well. It's important to balance cutting edge ideas with what can be put into practice without making things too complex or too costly as well. And that's a huge topic in itself in terms of cost. And then supporting and training is crucial. And that's why I go out to train our partners and customers, because it's crucial to have that training session with the staff and making sure that they're able to use the content and how it embeds into curriculum as well. So it's not just about them using the technology or having a go. It's actually, how does it embed into the curriculum and how does it embed into the classroom with the students as well, and how useful it is. So next slide, please. I think there's some people struggling with the mood board, so don't worry about it if it's not working, but we can come to the Q&A at the end. So in terms of building digital capabilities across diverse teaching staff, now, not everybody's going to be comfortable using technology. And again, when I go out to teach, train the staff, that staff are from different backgrounds, different curriculum, so from construction to health and social care, to early years. So everyone's diverse, everyone's got different experiences in terms of technology and how they use it. So we're specialising in virtual reality and augmented reality and virtual environments. That is still quite a huge type of technology to use. So it's important to help everyone build their skills and make everyone comfortable using it. And I think sometimes it's the gentle approach. So you've got to understand where the staff members are coming from. So some may be beginners, some are intermediate. So giving them that gentle approach, getting them to get used to the technology and then start using it. So rather than going straight in, that can sometimes actually put people back in terms of using the technology. So there was a time where I went out to a particular training session where some of the staff were great, they loved it. Others were a bit reluctant because straight away they saw this is a bit difficult for us to use, but it's that gentle approach again. Empowering teachers to experiment with new tools while providing a safety net for them and try without fear of failure. It's really important that they're not, we don't want teachers to be scared. And as a teacher myself, I did struggle in the early days of teaching and learning, when I became a new teacher. But, as time goes along with the support mechanism and everybody around you, you are able to overcome some of those fears. So technology is something that we, I know with AI as well and ChatGPT and all these different elements, people do worry about how that's going to be used, how it impacts teaching and learning. Again, I can see people on the mood board now, so please do put your kind of feedback in terms of what your approach would be to train staff as well. Next slide, please. Governance and policy considerations. What does that mean? It means education training institutes are using more and more tech, as we know. So all of us are, participating in that. And there's no need to be clear. There's no clear rules, but you need to make sure that there are guidelines for safety and ethical use in the right way. So establishing clear policies and data privacy and security. So making sure now every technology comes with data protection, data privacy. So that is really important to make sure, if you are using the virtual reality headsets, and like the first thing I do when I go out to train is make sure that people know how to use the headsets, how they could possibly feel, because it does make you feel a bit dizzy. It does make you feel a bit nauseous at times. So just making sure that overcoming all the risk factors as well. But as an establishment, that people do need to make sure that the services are correct as well. Setting the standards for evaluation of the tech tools, making sure they're up to date, and also ensuring that the decisions that you're making is thoughtful. It's for the teachers, it's for the students, and it's making sure that we are using the correct tools for that particular college or school. Next slide, please. So in terms of preparing for the next generation of learning tech, tech is always evolving, as we've discovered today from all of the speakers today. There's a broad conversation, but obviously in schools, colleges, training providers, and the workplace, we need to be preparing for the next big thing in education, like AI, which we've spoken today about, virtual reality, and also personalized learning tools. So even though the Miro board is there, that is also a form of technology. You're inputting, collaborating, and sharing ideas with one another. So it's really important that we look at how we approach the next generation of learning using technology. Key points to think about, is staying informed with emerging trends. How are you going to be, remain informed with the trends? So the filtering is really important. So where heads of departments or vice principals and principals are looking at technology, it's important that information is filtered down to the staff as well, when the staff can inform how they would use technology. So it's really important that there is a cohesiveness and kind of everyone joins together in looking at emerging technology and how it's used. Also thinking about in terms of how both teachers and students thrive in increasingly tech-driven world. So, everything and everywhere, even through social media, students are learning, staff are learning, we're all learning through social media about how technology is used in a variety of different industries as well. So think about the next generation. Again, put your ideas onto the mood board. Next slide, please. So just to summarize, digital transformation in education is not just about new tools, it's about building the culture and how technology supports better learning. So that's what we're all here for, and to improve that learning experience for the students, to improve their journey, to improve their assessments, their grades, overall preparing them for industry and the real world, and also their success, and their success is ours as well. So it's using technology to bridge that gap. It requires a long-term strategy, so it doesn't happen overnight. All of the technologies can be overwhelming, but balancing the ideas and practical applications, ensuring teachers, students, stakeholders, everybody involved are supported along the way. So I think it's really crucial that we are all collaborating together to use all of these technologies. And
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was absolutely fantastic.
Sorry about the nerves.
No, you're fantastic, and just to reiterate that you having got your on the one side your experience on the further education side, and now delivering training for those who are using virtual immersive programs. This is very your advice around collaboration, being everyone on the journey in a slow way, in a gentle way, really is a very powerful point. Thank you so much. So if I can invite all speakers to come back on screen. Thank you, Chris, for taking the slideshow off. Now we've got an opportunity to for any of you to ask the panel questions. This is a great opportunity to ask anything, any bugbears you might have, anything that you are grappling with at the moment around this theme of the confusion, the plethora of technologies out there, and actually how to implement it. So please raise your hand if you have any questions, or put it in the chat. But in the meantime, what I suppose I'm curious to know from you, Vio, what inspires you? Because you are vibrant, Vio, and it's clear that you've got you've been at New City College for a long time. What is it that's inspired you to get this working as well as it is?
I think my being here, as you said, for such a long time has had its ups and downs, we all have. But lately, it's been like we are in a digital storm. There is so much happening, and I've noticed this that before it was quite a sort of straightforward route. We had some systems, we had certain technologies, and some of them were just ended up being, oh, this is just going to be a repository. We'll just put links there and documents. Now there is so much happening, there is so much creativity, and also people seem to join together in this effort. So I think one of my how can I say, amazing feelings about this job is that I've been becoming part of so many communities of educators and people who are in the same struggle and failure and then success, or of various degrees of achievement. That's one of the great things. And I also absolutely love the interaction with the students as well. As I said, with the immersive classrooms that we launched last year and the VR headsets, it's like, Miss, we've got this. It's such a joy to see them excited, and like David also mentioned in his presentation about having this but it's just the enthusiasm. And
Wonderful.
in terms of
Thank you.
yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Vio. Again, we've got so much to do. I want to just move on because we only got 10 minutes left of the discussion. We have a question. I don't know the names, forgive me, but AETCGS. If you are happy to come on screen, I think you have your hand raised.
Yes. Hello. Hi. I'll
Hello,
just use the mic.
Yes, sure. That's no problem.
Thank you. This is Dr. Al-Madi. My name is Fatima. Fantastic Fatima. So
very good to meet you.
I enjoyed that. Thank you so much. It's good to see, people from the technology, side talking about technology rather than people, in education who adopted technology talk about technology, which is just as important. So as you put it, we are in a digital storm, especially with the AI emergence. And so how do institutes choose, platforms, tools? To what degree? You've got higher education. We're dealing with, we train people in leadership positions, but we also train teachers, administrators, and so there's so much out there. How do you strategize? How do you put a criteria?
That's a great question. Thank you, Dr. Fatima, and welcome to this call. David, can I possibly invite you to answer that?
I think for us, I think what we look at is as being as close to what the workplace is for us, because we need to give workplace experiences and to use things that will make them workplace ready. And those tools that have a quick learning curve and when once learned, mimic the workplace and give instant feedback are the ones that we think we see the most adoption for. And I think those are the ones that will give the biggest benefit to your learners. So, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of noise with everything else. It's about looking at those aspects and making the decision to adopt. It shouldn't be done on cost or anything else. It should just be done on those aspects as far as we're concerned. I hope that helps, Jason.
No, that's Dr. Hopefully that's an inkling, and of course there'll be an opportunity to reach out to our speakers afterwards. But I think that link to employability makes a lot of sense. And we have a question from Matthew Byram. What challenges have you experienced implementing VR with a whole class of learners, and what have you explored to overcome them? Sarah.
Yeah, so interesting question. It can be quite daunting for students, but my strategy is I go in and train the staff first, and then I go in to train the students, and then do a collaborative. So teach is like almost like teaching to get, collaborative together. The challenge is, yes, some students, they don't want to put the headsets on because they may feel a certain way, but actually once you show them step by step, and like I said earlier, that gentle approach of sort of saying, right, this is how the environment is going to look like, what the expectations are. I do show them on the screen beforehand. So because we do virtual environment scenarios, we show them on the screen what to expect before you put the headsets on. And then, to be honest, it straight away students love it. So I've not really had any negative kind of responses from students, but implementing it is a lot of training, a lot of support, and a lot of kind of guidance in terms of making sure that it's effective within the classroom.
Thank you, Sarah. Great answer. Via, you have your hand up?
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to add to what Sarah said, that through trial and error, as I said, we're running this supported experiment on VR and immersive at our college. And what we've noticed is exactly what you said, Sarah. That you think because they are younger students, 14 to 16, they will be so accustomed to where the trigger is or how to use the controllers. So with a few sessions, we actually had to go back and say, right, we're going to do the first steps module, or we're going to, so where they actually learn the controls.
Yes.
It was a lesson that we learned, and we're happy to do that again. And it's a bit fun, isn't it, for them? Just a little bit to get used to it. But yeah, it was like, you know what? We know we want to achieve as much learning as possible by using the VR headsets. But if they don't know how to use them, let's go back to learning how to. So that was
always good to go back to basics. To definitely do before you get them into that environment. So.
Thank you. And I suppose we've got 5 minutes left, and I suppose there's time for maybe each one of you for a minute, just to sort of give your hottest tip to those on this call in terms of what is the most likely strategy to make things go well, to be successful. What is your golden tip? And above all, because there's no question that we're on this road, there is this huge amount of, to Dr. Patton's point, a lot of information out there, and a great challenge in implementing. So if I could invite you, David, just for a minute, just to sort of share your golden nugget.
So I think at Pearson, when it comes to technology, we have a fail fast and learn approach, and that kind of culture is what you need in your classroom. That when that first problem comes that we've just talked about, you fail fast, you learn, and you move on, because that's the biggest adoption problem, in the fact that the first time you adopt any kind of technology, it goes badly, you're tempted to just put it back on the shelf and leave it there. Fail fast and learn helps your learners as well, because it allows them a safe space to actually get to trial and error things. And I think that culture is where you need to be, Jason.
Brilliant. Couldn't agree more, which is a perfect segue to Vio, Chief Failure Officer of the person you mentioned.
Yes, and I keep going back to Paul. Fail, he said it's a first attempt in learning. If you look at the acronym FAIL, it's so very similar to what David said. It's the first attempt in learning if you fail. So what I would suggest is tea, coffee, and biscuits. No, don't laugh. But actually, we have got this VR immersive cafes where staff come and have tea, coffee, and biscuits, and they experiment with the technology in the environment, or whatever you can have that. And it's been quite successful because it's something that they also enjoy. Also maintaining a constant communication with them, and having trying to find where their needs are and how we could complement and help what they're already doing. And as I said, trying to establish this community. If I have been feeling so fortunate to find people like me interested in this sort of area and trying to progress in it, I'm sure our teachers want to do the same. I'm sure so establishing these communities and bringing them in it will definitely help.
Absolutely wonderful. And if we can just take an action, if there's anyone here who would like to join this community of vibrant VOs, and to make sure that we actually learning from each other, sharing best practice, because this is we are in this process of transformation, then please do get in touch. Sarah, over to you. You have the last minute of the day.
From my perspective, it's all about training the successful students and giving them the opportunity to, really be able to experiment and the real life. So obviously we create immersive programs that simulate the real world, and the technology now is just absolutely amazing. So we need to utilize that and allow staff and students to know why it is beneficial for them to use the technology to get into industry, and not just what they're learning in one specific industry. It's a vast amount of industry. So looking at all opportunities, whether it's construction or health and social care, or looking at aviation or whatever. So yeah, I think the impact is important in terms of the success of a learner.
Wonderful. And I couldn't agree with you more. And so may I just take this opportunity to thank you, Vio, David, Sarah, for sharing you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart for the betterment of education, further education. I know we have international callers as well. So thank you for giving up an hour of your time. Hopefully this has been helpful. There are if speakers want to put their contact details in the chat, and if you have any questions after this, then I'm sure they'll be very happy to support that. Anyway, thank you again to all of you. Thank you to Jisc, to Becky, and we will see you next time when we're going to be talking about embracing AI and immersive technologies, transforming SEN education for 2025. Look forward to seeing you at the next talk. Until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And do get in touch. Any questions if you have.